Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Bar podcast. I'm your host, Denisa Tova, and today I am chatting with the multi talented Melissa Mantel. She is not just a standout family law attorney, she's a partner at Mantel McDonough Riso. She's also a rising star by New York super lawyers. But what strikes me the most, not only she's a dedicated to her family, also her passion for Duke basketball, but her unique journey to becoming a lawyer, which is what makes her such an intriguing guest. And I cannot wait to dive in. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Denise. I'm so happy to be here.
So, your path to law was not a straight line. You were considering a different career. Can you share that story?
Sure. I didn't really know when I was in college what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work with people to help people. I knew I wanted to work in a field that involved children. And I graduated from Emory University with a psychology degree, and I considered for a moment pursuing that field, but I didn't want to be somebody who was just listening and not, giving counseling, giving advice in a way that I think most clinical therapists are trained to do. So I looked into different options, different fields. I was intrigued by adoption and that area of the law, and then I explored, well, what other fields are similar to that, and that's what brought me to family law. So I knew when I decided to apply to law school that this was what I wanted to do, and that I tailored my courses at law school to really all of the things that I thought would be useful in this field, not just your basic family law courses, but family law mediation, international family law, advanced international family law, um,
Oh.
federal income tax, and financial accounting for attorneys, all of the things that come into play as a divorce attorney. um, when I was in law school, I met my now husband, who coincidentally has a father who practices family law and tried to talk me out of it many, many times. And I said, no, this is it. This is what I want to do. And um, I began practicing in New York at a different firm, and I joined my current firm where my father-in-law is one of the founding partners, about,
Wow.
I guess it was 5, 6 years ago at this point. And I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, no, there is so much there. I don't even know where to start. So first of all, you really must love what you do. And it sounds like a cliche, but when you're dealing with children, that's not easy. As you were getting into that field, can you think of, and I don't know if you didn't have children at that time, but can you think of what it felt like as you were dealing with those issues? Really got into some of the stories involving children, but yet you kept going, and today you are in that field. I mean, what was it like when you first started?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was starting as I wasn't a mother at that point, but I knew a lot about children and child development, just given my background. So, I came into it thinking, maybe naively, I'm going to come in and I'm going to, save the world. And I think a lot of people, when they apply to law school, that's what they think. And then once you get into the actual practice, you realize that it's very nuanced and it can be very challenging. Sometimes you are in a position where, you can see that a child is that their parents or one of their parents is not acting in their best interests, and
Mm.
that is very, very challenging. And I always do my best to to counsel my clients and to always put the children first, and that's the
Mm.
part of the practice that I enjoy the most. When I have clients who come to us in really terrible family situations, whether it's as part of a divorce or post divorce. A lot of times clients will come back when there are issues, and there's no greater feeling than getting an outcome for a client that you know is going to, in many ways, save that client's child or children. And I've been fortunate um, on many occasions to be in that position and to know that these are families and these are children's lives, and you're really doing good. On the flip side, obviously, as an attorney, you're an advocate for your client, and there are times where it can be challenging when you have a client who is the one that's doing things that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's still something that I think, as an attorney, I am trying to balance those two roles between, wanting to make sure that my client's children are protected both physically and emotionally and psychologically, while also making sure the client feels that their voice is being heard, that they're being empowered, and that they have somebody in their corner and fighting that battle. But it's extremely challenging being in that position. I much prefer being in the position of fighting for the good. So yeah, I think that the good outcomes and seeing the positive results, that for me, that's what really keeps me going, and uh, makes me really love what we do, because there's just no greater feeling.
Going through the process of divorce, it's extremely difficult, even for parents, obviously, let alone the children. But oftentimes, when parents are dealing with that, they feel down, they're on their knees, there's a sense of shame and fear, and oftentimes it's acting out, right? It's that fear. So how do you, not how do you, but being able to stay focused and guiding them, and still taking the best interests of their children in mind. I mean, there's a lot in there. So, and let's talk about the other layer of what you are sort of faced with or have been faced with, which could be, I'm sure it was not without a challenge working for your father-in-law. What has that been like?
It's been really wonderful. I mean, I think initially it took a little bit of getting used to, but now I mean, we have a great dynamic, a great relationship. I mean, he's been doing this for, I think, like over 40 years. So he comes with just a
Wow.
wealth of experience and knowledge. And I go to him often, even if it's a case that he's not involved in, to get advice. I recently went to him about something that I asked, well, what do you do in this situation? You've done so many, it was for a prenup. You've done so many of these, what do you think is a fair and reasonable proposal to make given these facts? And I was happy to hear that my instinct of what I was going to recommend was in line with what his was. But still, it's helpful to hear, from somebody who's done this and who's seen it all, really, you know, what what they would do if they were in my position. And we have, I work with him. I work with Kevin McDonough on a lot of cases, and I work independently on cases that I'm the primary attorney on, and we collaborate with each other on all of it. So working with him and having him here as a resource and as a mentor has been really, really wonderful. Um, it's interesting because I think I have, and people know Alan, my father-in-law, because he's been around for so long. Um, I have, I would say, a different style and disposition, and I think that both can be very, very effective. I want the client to feel comfortable with me at all times, and to feel that I'm not just an attorney. I'm somebody that they can, um, you know, pour out all of their emotion to, because there's a lot of emotion that comes with this process, particularly when we're dealing with custody issues. And I don't describe myself as a screamer or a yeller, or somebody who has to be overly assertive to get my points across.
Yeah.
I think that I get a lot of credibility with um, other attorneys, with the judges, with the style that works best for me. And I've learned that trying to do something that's not me, feels unnatural. It doesn't present well,
Yeah.
and it's not effective. But obviously, there's among the matrimonial bar here in New York, there are so many attorneys, and everyone has their own style and what works best for them. And I've been doing this for a long time. I'm still learning and figuring out what that style is for me and how to continue to improve at because it's a craft being an attorney. There's
Yeah.
the client facing side, and then there's you talk with your adversaries, and then there's the judges, and you can wear different hats, I think, for each of those roles. So if you need to be um, more assertive, more aggressive in court, that's something that I can do. But I also want the client to feel like they can speak to me and they can be honest with me and candid with me about what they're feeling, what they're thinking. And I've been told by former clients that that's what they value the most in working with me, is that they felt like they could talk to me and that they could trust me and that I was somebody that they felt really comfortable sharing with.
Mm. And everything that you describe is you authentically. And again, that takes courage to say, "Mm, yeah, we all have different personalities. My father-in-law is a legend in his own right, and your other partners there, and they have their personality, and I'm sure they have not stopped growing. Even, I've interviewed some practitioners who practice for decades, and they still read about other legends, and then I think everybody is trying to figure out what that style is, and it can be many different things. What I'm hearing is you lean into whatever is in front of you, and you are aware of this. You have the sense of self, which is really powerful. So you don't get lost in this. It's really not a profession. It's almost like there's so much that goes into it. This career. Let's switch gears a little bit. When we spoke on the phone briefly, you mentioned Duke basketball picture.
I did.
Why? And you said it had a story. Tell me
Yes.
about that story.
So I am the oldest of three girls, and my sisters tease me that I'm the son that my dad never had because I've always had a love of of sports, and not as a athlete but as an observer. Um, and my dad is a graduate of Duke University. He's always been a huge fan of their basketball program. So growing up, he would take me to games all the time. Um, it's funny, my youngest sister has, as she's gotten older, has gotten more interested in sports. And I just found out a couple of weeks ago that he's taking her to a game at Duke in a few weeks. And I was like, where's my invite?
Oh,
um, but he understands that, I'm very busy with work and that I can't just, pick up and go.
yeah.
Away for a weekend, especially now that I have a young son and, adding complications. But um, growing up, we would go to games together. And one year,
Mhm.
for his birthday, got him a framed photograph of a very famous moment in Duke basketball history. It's called The
Wow.
Shot, using my air quotes. Of Christian Leitner with seconds left on the line. He hit the winning shot to you know in the NCAA tournament, and it was a big moment
Yeah.
against Kentucky, a huge rival. So I ordered this for my father. They sent it in the wrong frame color, so I called them and they said, "Oh, we'll send the right one. You can just keep the extra one." So that's what I have hanging up behind me in my office.
What a cool
I also have,
story.
you can't
That,
see it
that
on the
is,
screen, but I have my Boston Red Sox banner up there, which
ooh,
a
okay.
lot of people in this firm and clients will come in and they kind of give the side eye. um,
I can imagine.
yes. Growing up, I had a nanny who I was very close with, and she ended up marrying a baseball player, and the first team he ever played for was the Red Sox. So at their wedding,
Wow.
where I was the junior bridesmaid, they had the whole team there, and she would bring us to games, let us meet the players. So I always had this allegiance to the Red Sox, even though my husband and his whole family they're all big Yankees fans. So it makes it interesting during baseball season in our household. we had to reach an
Courageous
agreement
all the way
before my
around.
son was yeah, before my son was born, we had to it was nothing in writing, no contract, but, okay, what sports teams is he gonna be
Yeah.
affiliated with? And I caved on the Red Sox since we're growing up in New York. I thought that would be cruel to put him through that, being a Red Sox fan in New York, but I got Duke basketball, the most important.
No, I love it, I love it, and plus you declared it publicly right now, so the cat's out of the bag anyway, so
There you go.
that is great. We everybody has their own definition of balance, but when you come home, I know you're a devoted mom. I mean, how do you shut off, the being an attorney, and what do you guys do when you get home so that you're not bringing it with you, or do you talk shop?
It's definitely a balance, and it's something that I'm still working to figure out. As somebody who grew up with a family law attorney as a father, my husband is he's heard a lot already. Sometimes he's like, I don't want to hear about it. I've heard it already, but there are a lot of times where I will come to him with a problem, and we'll bounce ideas off each other. He'll give me his advice. He does entertainment law, so a totally different field,
Yeah.
transactional. But both of us as attorneys, we will talk about our work, and we'll talk about our day too, and say what happened. But it's definitely a challenge shutting off, especially when you have clients that are in the middle of a crisis or an emergency and you really need to be available after hours. And it's something that it's it's part of the work that we do. I try to when I get home every day, because I take the after work shift, my husband takes the before work shift with my son. So the time that I have with him from when I get home until I put him to bed, that's I really try my best not to answer emails, not to answer phone calls. Like, that's his time that we can connect with each
Mhm.
other. And when he goes to bed, if I have to sign back on and keep working, that's something that I do more often right now than at other times. January is always a
Yeah.
very busy month, um, and that's part of the balance, just like making sure you carve out that time, and on the weekends as well. Obviously, I do end up working, at least in some capacity over the weekend, but I try to make sure that I'm setting aside some family time and time with my son and with my husband, because it's important in this field in
Yeah.
particular to have that balance. You can't just be on all the time 24/7. And the things that can wait until Monday will wait until Monday. The things that need to get done right away, my husband and I, we communicate, and I'll say, look, I've got to get this done today. Can you, uh, you know, go to the park or to the playroom in our building or something, so that I can have that time to get my work done. And I, of course, return the favor when he has a deadline or some emergency that pops up. And, it's really a partnership having, to work together. Um, we're fortunate to have wonderful childcare as well, but that allows us to be here during the day.
Yeah.
And at night and on the weekends, we have to work with each other, and to make sure that we can both be the professionals that we are as well.
Any favorite TV shows that you're into or
Ooh,
have just
well, we
always
just
looking for
started
tips?
the new True Detective series, which I was very
Oh,
excited to start. Um,
Jodie
it's
Foster. Oh my gosh, she is
Yeah,
kicking butt.
it's great, and I love that it's 2 women, 2 female
Yeah.
detectives this season. I feel
Yep.
like that's a really great dynamic. And,
Yeah.
we've other than that one bad season, we've really loved that show as it's, over the different iterations, and that it's, each season has its own kind of plot and story, and, trying to figure out, um, the mystery. So that's the one that's a more recent one, and we've also been watching The Bear, which I know is everyone's
Hmm.
talking about. It's this cooking, or I guess it's a show about a restaurant. It's up for all these awards, and I actually, during this period after I graduated from college, when I was trying to discover, well, what do I want to do, I waited tables for a period of 6 or 7 months, and so I have a real appreciation for
Yeah.
for
It's tough work.
that
Yeah.
industry and seeing it on the screen, and especially in a way that they like capture it like so perfectly. It's a really, if you haven't watched it, it's a really great show. Very
Mm.
entertaining.
I gotta check it out. I'll definitely check
Yeah.
it out. Yeah, and the True Detectives, same thing, and it's like it definitely keeps me on the edge of my seat. It's like, what could that thing be without
Yes.
revealing anything? But yeah, that's intense. Wow. You have been on this fast track, and I love how you've been paving your way. You know, having learned from the experience, you haven't been around for 40 years, and I know you will be. So, and amazing. What advice would you give to incoming attorneys? To try and avoid maybe, I don't know. I guess you could say mistakes, mishaps along the way. Maybe something that you know now that you wish you knew then, and you would have done differently.
That's a great question. I think surrounding yourself with, working for really smart and experienced people, and people who support you becoming the individual, the attorney that you want to grow into, I think is very important. And people who you can also go to, because a lot of this is, you have to do it, and it takes a lot of
Mhm.
practice. And I think there's a balance between getting feedback and really kind of being thrown into it and having to figure things out for yourself, because that's the best way to learn, and having people who support you in that and who trust you. And you're going to make mistakes along the way. We're all human. And I think that it's important to surround yourself with a supportive group of attorneys. I think that that's a really big thing. I, um, I think that you, as an attorney, you have to be organized. Um, you have to start each
Mm,
case as if you are preparing it for trial, because you don't know if it's going
mm,
to settle or if it's going to be in a trial mode. So just being organized, having all of your deadlines, in one clear place. um, and I think that's more of an administrative issue. And I think the biggest thing is being somebody that your client feels like they can come to. A lot of times as a junior attorney, the partner might be busy, and you're the day-to-day contact for that client, and you need to make them feel
mm.
comfortable, like they're not being kind of just pushed off to the junior attorney, which is challenging, because a lot of times I think clients want to speak with the person that they hired. Um, but you need to be confident in your conversations with your clients and make them feel like you have their back, you know what you're doing, that their case is being appropriately handled and managed, and that you're going to fight for them. And that's those at the end of the day, that's what's the most important, is having the client feel that somebody is there to protect them and their interests.
And again, those words that you are speaking do not sound like a cliche at all. They sound very authentic. And you and your firm have, I know, sterling reputation. And I personally know from experience that you truly do care. You're very diligent. And I do appreciate also the preparedness too. I testified in a trial recently, and when are you ready? Always ready. There was actually a practitioner who I had on the show, and she was great. She was very fluent, and she said, when she's asked, whether it's a judge, whether it's another practitioner, client, are you ready? When are you ready? Always. I'm always ready. And it's
Yes.
just, knowing your client's story, because it's their entire life. It'll impact their entire life. And then really hearing them without taking on the emotion, but really hearing them and being there for them,
Mhm.
not treating them as just a number. So it definitely shows. And I am grateful and thankful for you sharing your story and being vulnerable and authentic. And you truly are very inspiring. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. It was, great to talk. I love talking about this work. And um, I'm happy to be here and to have this chat with you. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Likewise, we'll have you back. And to our audience, to get a closer look at Melissa Mantel's life or her impactful work, to get a hold of her, you make sure that you check out her bio linked below. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Beyond the Bar Podcast. Follow us on all social media channels linked below. And until next time, stay curious and inspired.